All right, welcome to this February 8th meeting of the Webster Board of Education. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Sorry. All right, I don't think we had any written public comments, and we have one person, Mr. Buck. Pony up.
Yeah, big bucks. Dave Buck, 124 South Elm. Rachel, Tina, good to see you guys. We'll be in touch. I've had 3 kids graduate from the district. I've got 2 grandkids at Bristol, 1 at Walter Ambrose. First, I want to share a fun education idea. But first, can I just share, keep off the clock for a minute. At the central office, he had a podium that you could put your papers down on, and City Council has one. It'd be nice if there was one, for what it's worth. First, this year is a fun educational idea. I'm wearing underneath, this is where I went to high school, Wichita Southeast High School, Golden Buffaloes. This is where I went to college. Joe, you're familiar with SMU. This is where I went to grad school, KU. I was at Starbucks today, and 2 people came up to me and said, "You went to SMU?" I said, "Yeah, I went to SMU." "I went to SMU." And we struck up a conversation with 2 strangers. The point is, you all are about education. Over 90% of your graduates go to college. I think it would be fun for one day a year to have all of you, all of the teachers, all of the staff wear their shirts when they went to college. I've known John for almost 24 years. I don't even know where you went to college. Did you go to college, John? I'm just curious. But the point is, I think it would be really fun if one day a year everybody wore their sweatshirt or shirt when they went to college. I think it'd be really fun. Okay, now I want to share a very serious education problem. As February is Black History Month, first I want to say something to Sean because this coming Monday on February 12th is Rising Together at the Gibbons School. It's all about racial equity and social justice. I think it's great. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you, Sean, for setting that up. But I also want to address what I think is perhaps the single most persistent and serious education problem in the entire district. We've talked about this before, but it is the existence of the academic achievement gap between white and black students or students of color that was once again brought to light when Jason shared the results of the APR, ARP, whatever it's called. I remember when the district first created the Academic Achievement Gap Committee in 2000 to solve the problem, but this gap has likely lasted much longer, probably dating back to when Douglas School was closed down in 1956 in favor of integrating the high school. More importantly, this gap, to the best of my knowledge, has not been significantly reduced in over 20 years or more. 13% of the high school's population is black, consistent with the national average. According to experts, many black kids who graduate from high school with this academic achievement gap leads to a lifetime plague of other gaps, including the college gap, the employment gap, the income gap, the housing gap, the poverty gap, the crime gap, and the prison gap. These same experts say that the academic achievement gap begins at the start of kindergarten, because families of many black kids cannot afford the tuition charged by private preschools. Get this, the cost for 9 months, full-time, 5 days a week, Walter Ambrose, $11,300. Goddard, $13,500. Elaine Rossi, $12,300. Western Presbyterian is a lot cheaper, $2,800. Even the Statesman half-day preschool is at $900 a year. Now double that for 2 years, and it is simply unaffordable and unattainable for many black families. As you know, this is a critical period for academic, emotional, and social development. So these black kids start kindergarten developing 2 years behind their more affluent white peers, and the gap begins and it never closes. 2 proven strategies to address this in other school districts around the country are universal preschool. But I just read an article in the Webster Kirkwood Times about your financial situation, so that's probably off the charts right now. But another successful one is the Black Male Mentoring Program, where you get for black kids, particularly boys, many of whom grow up without a strong male role model in their family. Think of the Webster Groves High School black graduates who could volunteer. Lee Moss, Brigadier General David Turner, Olympian Tommy Turner, Ivory Crockett, Walter Smallwood, Bucky Gibbons, Kevin Brackens, Kelvin Cunningham, etc., etc. No strategic plan is ever etched in stone or untouchable. If necessary, it can be changed at any time to adapt to changes in current situations and new priorities. Thus, my hope is that this be incorporated as a major, specific, and separate strategy under your goal number 1, effective teaching and learning. It's time to close this gap once and for all. I know you can do it. We can do it together. Thank you.
All right, moving on to board member recognition. We would like to recognize Alan Todd on attaining his MSBA Master Board Member Certification. Awesome, thanks for doing that. All right, next up the calendar. Anything?
No new
to note?
updates. Nope, nothing to note.
All right. The St. Louis School Board Professional Learning Community.
Yeah, just wanted to bring, all of you received an email from Keisha Lee, board president at Ladue, regarding her and I believe her board's interest in uniting around public school education. And one of the ways to do that was she threw out to create this flyer that on it people would, if boards would allow their logo to be included, you have a copy of what that looks like. It has a few different legislative topics that were recently talked about by the PLC. For those of you that attended lately, certainly hot topics in public education. And then just ways to contact your legislators. The link on there currently, and I don't know exactly what her intent is, but the link on there currently goes to a updated legislative report from MOASBO. And so I don't know how that will be updated at this point because that was from a couple weeks ago when she originally sent it out. So just wanted to push this. You all received it, probably thought about it yourself, but if you wanted to have a discussion about it, do you all want to have the logo on there or not?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I asked for a little bit more clarity. I just feel like the bills that are highlighted are bad for public education, and I don't think it's very clear that that's the case. So I asked that we make it more clear. We are not, whether it's we're opposed, whether it's bad bills, I don't know. Some sort of easy to understand, quick copy change that would update that, and then then I'd be for it. But I just don't think at this point it's like legislative updates, here's some bills, what's that mean? Like, what's your stance?
Mm-hmm.
Other than,
I would agree with that, and then if if you're the one, or Joe, if you're whoever's responding, if you could just make it clear where is that link going to go, so we're aware before we put our logo on there. But I agree with Alex. I would like it to be clear why I'm watching it, and that these are bad for public education.
I agree with all that. With those changes, I'd be supportive of putting the logo on, as long as that link, number 1, is updated, and number 2 is going to some sort of organization that represents our interests, like MSBA or MOASBO or something like that.
And do we know where she intends to put this? Because it's gonna, those bills
Yeah.
change so quickly.
Well, she said with the emails that she was gonna send it back to us for our own distribution and communication. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Anybody
comments,
that's
questions?
not crazy about Webster's being on there. What I would do is, and we would communicate, I think, with her, and then send it back out to you all. It's nothing that requires a board vote, but does this line up and give you all an opportunity to weigh in if you don't like it or something like that, and then we can move forward if no one is opposed.
And I assume it was sent to all county schools?
That's what I inferred from that email.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Anybody else? Comments? No? All right.
Okay.
Moving on to Student Health Services, our District Wellness Program Evaluation. Tina Clark-Scott and Rachel Huertas.
Good evening. This is Rachel Huertas, and she is our lead nurse for the district. And Rachel is going to present to you this evening the district program evaluation for our health services.
Sorry.
And Rachel's primary location is at the high school.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Okay, so the health services program evaluation.
It's coming.
Okay, that's okay. I have a little preamble, so we got some time. Okay, so education and health for children are inextricably combined. A student who is not healthy, who has an undetected vision or hearing problem, who is hungry, they're not going to benefit optimally from the educational process. Likewise, education is a social determinant of health, meaning it is strongly associated with health behaviors, with morbidity, with life expectancy. So school nurses and health service programs in public schools, they help bridge healthcare and education to support not only successful academic outcomes, but also positive long-term health outcomes, because all of the data tells us that those two things go hand in hand. So what we are evaluating is the work that's done every day in light of that understanding. Okay. I can keep going. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, Jason.
Okay. So you'll just have to trust me. I'm just on my own here. Okay. There we go. Okay. Jason, I think we're at program evaluation team in process. There we go. So Dr. Adams was very helpful throughout this whole process. He helped me put together a fabulous evaluation team, administrators, social workers. We had some district parents and even a few students. Obviously, all the nurses were involved, so it was a fabulous evaluation team. He helped me put together a great timeline for this process, and really he just kind of kept me on track with the whole thing. He was invaluable. I'm very grateful for his support throughout this whole process. All right, research findings and current best practices. So NASN, National Association of School Nurses, they are really our primary industry source for research findings and current best practices. They're an accredited provider of school nursing continuing professional development that's accepted by the nursing boards in all 50 states. They have 34 position statements. So these position statements provide background and rationale for everything from school health and child health to specific nursing issues. And that includes historical, political, financial, social, ethical, and scientific aspects of the issues. We didn't evaluate all 34 of these position statements, but we chose the ones that we felt like were most salient for these purposes. And we found that we're very well aligned with these position statements. We've had to pivot here and there to make sure that it stays that way. But nurses have to stand on evidence-based best practices. Evidence-based practice, it's a critical component of nursing, which clinical decision making is based on available evidence and clinical expertise, but that's what keeps the nursing practice relevant and current, provides positive student outcomes, prevents complications, etc. So that's where we obtained a lot of our research findings and current best practices. Equity considerations. So a lot of our survey questions were aimed at collecting data related to parent, guardian, and staff perceptions of our commitment to advancing a culture of equity and justice. So we asked parents and guardians, do they feel that we answer their questions in a way that they can understand? And that I feel reflects our understanding of varying levels of health literacy and our commitment to addressing that appropriately. We asked staff, do they feel that the nurses foster an environment where students feel safe and cared for regardless of race, color, religion, orientation, or any other individual characteristic? Special consideration was given to some of those position statements from NASN that directly correlated with health equity as well as safe, supportive, and equitable environments. And one of our recommendations was born out of a commitment to our equity resolution. Celebrations. So in the 2022-2023 school year, there were 23,244 student clinic encounters. And interventions by school nurses resulted in 21,867 outcomes related to students returning to class and staying in school. I think about schools who maybe don't have access to a school nurse, and I wonder how many of those students end up going home. So school nurses keep kids in school when it's appropriate and healthy to do so. Programming positive outcomes. So far this year, our vision screening program has resulted in approximately 15 students getting glasses for the very first time. And some of those glasses were provided free because of our partnership with NASN and an organization called Eyes for Hope. Some anecdotal evidence of success there. We had a nurse refer a student for additional assessment based on the vision screening, and the parent responded that her child's academic and athletic performance have been so strong that we didn't have enough info to look further until the nurse called last week. We really appreciate the call and are so excited to watch our child grow and develop even more strongly now that we're better able to support her in multiple ways. And in our survey data, we found that people trust us. We remain consistent with our cohorts and other nursing fields as one of the most trusted professions in the United States. Recommendations. A lot of our recommendations were process improvement oriented around communications of our emergency action plans for students who have special health concerns, how and when we remind staff members of where the emergency supplies are located, updating the health services FAQ page, things like that. But I really wanted something that was a little bit more than process improvement oriented. Process improvement is great and it's really important, but I just wanted a little more fruit from this whole evaluation process. So that's what the Webster Grove School District Health Services Collective Commitments is all about. Let me draw a parallel in education terms to kind of explain that a little bit better. So teachers engage in their CLTs, their collaborative learning teams, to share ideas and enhance their teaching practice, to create a learning environment where students can reach their fullest potential. And one of the components of those CLTs is to create shared norms and values. That's what this is for the nurses. It is this document that we created articulates our shared norms and values of the health services program with the goal of improving student health outcomes and thereby academic outcomes. And part of that is improving nursing practices. So the collaboration here valued each health service's individual skills and really seeks to include each person in achieving the district's strategic goals, specifically around equity. So the health services staff members, everyone contributed to this document, and it's something that we'll go back to, every August before school starts to just kind of remind us of our mission and vision. And then next steps, as far as the process improvements are concerned, creating checklists, making a calendar and communicating with administrators about some of those specific things, continuing to work with the webmaster to update the FAQ page, and keeping that collective commitments document alive and because that's a living, breathing thing. So, there you have it. Any questions?
Questions, anybody?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
AED devices, do we have those in all buildings? Do we have one in this
Yeah,
building?
we do actually. We have them in all of the schools. We have one here at the service center. The athletic trainer takes one to all of the events that he goes to. We'll have a brand new fancy one at Moss Field. We put one in 17 Selma. So we have a very robust AED program.
Okay. And you train folks to use it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It sounds like once a year, or maybe now twice a year, or?
Yeah, it's kind of varied in the past. Ideally, I would love to certify every single person in this district in CPR and how to use an AED. Well, that's not actually a possibility. The training that I do with staff is more just about knowing where it is in the building, knowing how to use it, not being scared of it, because there's no point in having an AED in central office if nobody knows where it is and nobody knows how to use it and they're scared to take it out. So it's a little bit more training versus certifying, but yeah.
And then my other question was around the committee. It looked like there were a couple of student members
Uh-huh.
on the committee.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about what they were able to offer the process.
So they actually helped a lot with the survey questions. They both are very interested in going into the health field. And that's just information that I have because I know them and we chat and they stop by the clinic. And so they helped a lot with creating the survey questions. And it was great to have like a teenager's input on like, don't say it like that. That doesn't make any sense. Like you need to say it like this instead. So it was, they were very honest with you, those teenagers. So they helped a lot with the survey questions. And I think it was an opportunity for them to just see the health services program from a little bit of a bigger perspective, because certainly that's not something they ever really thought about. They know who the nurse is, but as far as being a component in a larger program, they didn't really know much about that. So it was a great way to just kind of introduce that bigger picture to them as well.
Any other questions?
I just had a question out of curiosity. What are most of the visits? What do they entail? Are they mostly boo-boos? Are they?
Well, it depends. During cold and flu season,
Well, yeah.
it's a lot of symptoms that are related to upper respiratory things and things like that. And it also depends on what school you're at, what grade that school service is. So I mean, it is everything from the smaller, more minor things to social emotional things. The clinics are a place where a lot of students feel that that's one of their safe places for social emotional things. I think that the nurses do a really great job of partnering with the counseling departments and sharing support there. There's so many times where I'm talking to a student and I'm thinking, I'm talking to you as the nurse. I'm not actually qualified to give you counseling advice. Let's have your counselor into this conversation as well. So it is across the board, everything. And then we're here for the major emergency situations too. I got called to the gym because there was a kneecap that was out of place. I mean, there's just you never know. Every day is different, and it could be a relatively calm day, or you could have a busted open chin that's bleeding everywhere. You see everything in school nursing.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think I just want to say thank you to Rachel. I got to see her in action today. It's not, if you haven't worked in a school, you do not understand what 23,000 students looks like in a year. And the clinic can be one of the busiest places in a school, and they do wear multiple hats. And I don't think many people recognize that. I think they think it's Band-Aids and whatnot, but it is much more than that. So kudos to you, but you also take care of the adults, and I got to witness that today, and I think that's a big piece, is you also not only physically take care of adults, but also serve as a confidant and mentor in work that it can be sometimes very emotional and taxing. So just to put that into the space that you have choice. There's a shortage in healthcare as well as a shortage in education, and the nurses that choose to be here because they really love students and serving students. So thank you.
Thanks, Grace.
Any other questions? What grades do we do vision and hearing screenings, just out of curiosity?
So we follow the recommendations from the state health department, and there's our kindergarten, first, second, and third. A lot of times we'll do them for students who receive special school district services because they have those reevaluations every year, so that's usually a component of it, and students who are new to the district.
Okay. Any other questions? I just want to reiterate what Grace said. I have a sister who was a pediatric nurse at Children's Mercy in Kansas City forever and said, I would never be a school nurse because if anything goes wrong, it's all on you. And I think there's very few places in healthcare where it all falls on you. And it could be a lot, as we saw at Clark a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and bad things can happen. So
Yeah.
thank you for being there and doing all you do. We really do appreciate you guys.
Well, it's really great to have such a supportive team around us, even if they're not medical people. It's still great to have such a supportive, our administrators and the board. We feel a lot of support, even if we're not coming to you asking for questions about insulin. It's still great to have everyone's support around us. So.
Yeah, don't ask us questions.
Yeah, no, I won't. Don't worry, I won't.
Other than it's really important and you should
Yes,
have it around.
That's the correct answer, so it's fine.
There you go. All right, anything else? All right, well, thanks again for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, parking lot expansion.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. As you know, we've been hearing from community members. We've received some complaints about students parking in the neighborhoods around the high school. So we've been looking at different ways that we could increase some of our parking. Oh, there we go. Expand the parking lot. There, now I'm on. That's on Selma. So as you can see here, there's a picture of the lot. That's our existing lot right off of Selma. The road right down below here, that's Bussey Lane. And the proposed area is right at the end there of the existing parking lot. So there would not be an entrance off of Bussey Lane. The entrance would be through, it would just be a continuation of our existing parking lot. We have received some questions about how that would look, if that would increase traffic on Bussey Lane, and it would not, because the parking would be accessed through our existing parking lot. So the cost we have for this going through a purchasing co-op is $63,000, and we've added $40,000 to that for engineering, permitting, and any unforeseen items that may come up. So there's contingency added in there as well. And Jason Miller is here to answer any questions that you may have about the project.
Do you just want to also talk about just the communication with the neighbors thus far?
Yeah, so we've communicated with the neighbors. Our community relations department went out and handed out a flyer to the neighbors that would be right close to that property, since they would be hearing the construction. It shouldn't affect their property at all, but of course they're going to hear the noise, see the equipment. So we have communicated with them and received some questions from them as well.
Can you just explain why we decided to go with the co-op instead of maybe bidding this out?
Sure. In this case, the Burn & Jones is a part of a purchasing co-op. So when you're part of a co-op, they go through a bid process to be approved in the co-op. Burn & Jones is unique in the fact that they have an engineer on their team. So if we didn't go that route, we would have to hire a separate engineer, pay for that engineer, draw up the plans, then develop the bid specifications that then would be put out to bid. Then we would bid it out. Time we go through that process, we'd be really pushing our timeline pretty close, whether we could get it done. And we also believe that it'd be less expensive to do this because the cost just to hire an engineer by itself to do this would probably be somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000. So we feel in the long run it's going to be cheaper to do it this way, and we can get it done quicker.
So
Pam?
to-
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to the back of that parking lot, is there a house there? Are there houses that actually
Mhm.
directly abut it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's hard to see on here. That 118 you can barely
Yeah,
see
I see the
there. That's a
118.
house, and there's a house right next to it.
The thinner line on that corner, that's almost like a fence line. I mean, that's the property line, but there's fencing there that runs right there.
Okay. And then back there, that's a house?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And if
Dr.
we
Spencer, are you
talked to-
saying there's fencing on those property lines? Is that what you're,
Currently.
okay.
Yeah,
And then Pam, could you just sort of explain to everybody my question about if we were to look at redoing the entire lot, if it would still be laid out this way basically, or if we were starting from scratch?
Most likely it'll be laid out the same way. And Jason Miller explained today, when you look at these parking spots, as you can see, they're all at a 90-degree angle. Sometimes you go on a parking lot and they're at a 45-degree angle, and that takes up a little bit more room. Ours are already 45. The one area we maybe could look at is getting rid of those, the little islands right there, but they also serve for a buffer for students driving around. That's probably one of the only areas that we could look at to maybe expand. Then we would lose a couple spots right here where those arrows are, because that would be the entrance going into the new part. We're thinking there'll be about 17 spots that'll be added.
And that 17?
Yes.
Any other
Just-
questions?
Just so I'm clear, Bussy is the little gravel, that's the little gravel ground. I
Mhm.
know a lot of students walk on that line as well.
So if we're adding 17 spots in totality of all of the parking we offer, is that a lot? I mean, what is that kind of proportionate to all of the parking spots we have for students?
I don't know if I would know that off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember, does the high school have 170 some student spots? But yeah, I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And again, it's not gonna solve the issue.
Right.
Also on, you wanna talk, also on, you've seen on the consent agenda is we're also, you wanna speak to
Right.
it?
We're also asking for your approval tonight to rent the parking lot for Peace United Church of Christ. They have said that we could use that parking lot, the entire parking lot, because they're not using it right now. She's estimated they have 60 spots there. So if that
Okay.
gets approved tonight, we'll send that information out at the high school tomorrow to encourage students to park there instead of on the streets in the neighborhoods. And there will be no charge for that parking for our students.
So it's definitely not, 17's not gonna solve the problem, but it's gonna help.
Well, and if I understand correctly, and maybe I don't, but I think we're having a parking issue right now because of all the construction too. That's causing, I mean, once the construction's complete, we'll get parking back where, yeah,
That will help.
okay. I
For
mean,
sure.
there's always been, I mean, when I went to high school here, there were cars parked on the streets in all the neighborhoods every day.
We've heard from a number of people that it's not necessarily something new. And yeah, with the construction, both some of the construction on Bradford, all the contractors and people working that are parking along Selma, you could see it just during the day. And then we've also lost some spots on our Bradford parking lot right by baseball and softball. It's where our turf is currently stored. So once Frick Theater is done and once we get through that construction, we will also have additional spots. Yeah. And we know that there at times there was a lot of people working on the Frick Theater at one time, a lot of different contractors in there. So yeah.
Thanks.
I think it's pretty clear in this drawing, but would the only way in and out of the new lot be through the existing lot, or would you be connecting onto Bussy Lane? No. Okay.
Yeah. That's a pretty, you can't tell it on that picture there, but it's a pretty steep slope to get up there.
Okay. Really steep.
Any other questions? All right.
Just the last thing for me, it's a little bit tangentially related, but I know we talked in the past too about trying to find ways to encourage high school students to carpool and do that sort of thing. I assume those conversations are still happening as well. Okay.
Do you, in curiosity, or is it like juniors and seniors can drive and sophomores can't? Like, I mean, or is it anyone who has a car can drive? So do we know how many numbers? And I think, I mean, I read the email. I mean, I think it's also important to remember that some of those neighbor communities also, like the number of kids in our community who have a car that drive to school versus, because I worked in U City, so I can speak for U City, versus the number of kids who go to U City High School that have access to their own car to drive to school, there is a difference.
Yeah.
So the impact in parking and neighborhood also exists there. So I think in those terms, so I guess that's why I'm wondering, do we have, I know in Parkway schools, seniors get a spot. It's like there's those pieces. So is that a part of the layer for the high school when they're thinking about how to try to figure out how to solve the parking issue?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Reagan, but I believe seniors have priority. Do you know about that?
So seniors are supposed to have priority, but there are sometimes some slip-ups and juniors are able to get spots, but it really just depends on when you sign up, when the stuff goes out for it. So yeah, so we do have it, but like it's kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Then the high school
Thank you.
next year plans on encouraging more carpooling too through what they call partner parking, where two students could sign up for one spot. So they're going to try to really promote that for next school year as well.
Any other questions? All right. We need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the financial services agreement. Oh, no, I'm in the consent agenda.
I can do it. I'll make a motion to approve Burn and Jones Construction as the contractor for the new parking lot.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. And on to Dr. Simpson.
Yeah, just a quick update. Just wanted to touch on a few relevant topics. First of all, in all of our schools this month, we're celebrating Black History Month. And there's a lot of super meaningful, relevant opportunities for kids to understand and experience different things as it relates to Black history. So I would encourage you with children in your schools to be looking for information, and then we'll also send you some different examples and things that are happening in schools. While we are not doing a lot of celebrations, since it is National School Counselors Week, I feel called to just say thank you to our school counselors. Similar to our nurses, they are invaluable to the support of our children. Similar to what Grace said about the adults with nurses, it's the same thing with our counselors, and they're integral to our work. I mean, again, not just on the social emotional side, but of course the academic side as well. The Inspirers Award, we started last year the Inspirers Award, which is for to recognize people who have made contributions, and the benchmark is 5 years or more to the district, whether it's to the district as a whole, to an individual school. There's criteria involved. Anybody can nominate someone. It could be a student, a staff member, a parent, or a community member. I will send out a link. You may have received it but if not, if there's anybody that comes to mind or any group of people, you could recognize them. And those, as you'll remember, last year we recognized our Inspire awardees at the retiree reception too. And that, I believe, is on your calendar now, but I will make sure. If not, it's Tuesday, May 7th. So look for more information there. And I did want to touch on relevant that, as you know, we received a letter from the Attorney General, seeming to suggest that the district is blatantly disregarding legal requirements relative to material provided to students pertaining to human sexuality. The district is fully aware of those requirements and has an extensive policy and practice of notifying parents of upcoming curriculum involving human sexuality and involving parents the opportunity to have their children not participate in such curriculum. Throughout each school year, those practices and policies are extended to thousands of students enrolled in the district and their families and administered by hundreds of district staff members. In the rare event an individual issue arises relative to such policies and practices, we do remediate such an issue if possible, but in all events take action necessary to ensure that such an issue is not repeated. And I just felt that I wanted to share that. That's it.
All right, thank you for that.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
I motion to approve consent agenda items 6.02, 6.03, 6.04, 6.05, 6.06, 6.07, and 6.08, and 6.09.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Now I will entertain a motion to recess into executive session for the purpose of discussing preparation for negotiations and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, we are in executive session. You want to break or you want to keep going?